G'day and welcome to what I've been reading, a regular video series from the Motley Fool. I'm the Motley Fool's Chief Investment Officer in Australia. I'm Scott Phillips, and I'm joined by an analyst every single week to talk about the books or reports or publications or articles they've been reading and what it might mean for your investing. Today, I'm very pleased to be joined by Darius Zarghami. Darius, g'day.
G'day, Scott. How you going?
Mate, I'm very well, thank you. This is probably one of the best known business books, I'm going to say, certainly of the last 20 odd years. Antifragile by Nassim Nicholas Taleb. It is one that has been absolutely quoted from here to there. It was a real breakthrough. And I guess the first question for those who haven't read it, we know what fragile is. Obviously, we kind of get that. But what is anti-fragile, at least as far as Taleb's concerned?
In the book, Taleb describes what he calls the triad. It's a bit of a spectrum of sorts, I think. And so what we have on the left of the triad is fragile, which when it's placed under stress, this is something that really suffers a lot of harm. In the middle is an often misunderstood one. It's robust. So that's something, it's not the opposite of fragile. It's just something that can kind of resist a stressor, and it's not really harmed by it or benefits from that stressor. But then the most important one to us is, of course, anti-fragile. And so that's something that can face a stressor and actually benefit from it. So it faces that volatility, that chaos, that uncertainty, and it improves itself from it. And so I guess an example of each, something fragile, pretty easy, think like a porcelain teacup. If it falls off the table, it shatters, it's broken, it's done. You can put it back together, but it's never going to quite be the same. Something robust, I guess you've got, you could say a tennis ball, you can throw it around, you've got a reusable plastic mug. It can take some bumps and drops. It can take heat. It can take cold, but it comes out of all of that more or less the same. And I guess something anti-fragile, I think the best thing to look at would be, you see it in a lot of mythology, something like the mythical Hydra, for example. When someone comes up against the mythical Hydra, you try to chop its head off, but it just grows two back. It comes back stronger than it was before. And looking more personally, I've been going to the gym a little bit lately over the past few months, and I've sort of been learning that your muscles are very, very anti-fragile. So when you lift, say, 30, 40, 50 kilograms, your muscles get these little micro tears, and then they actually grow back stronger in anticipation of having to lift a higher weight at a future time. So that's very, very anti-fragile.
That's a cool example, actually. I hadn't thought about that one. That's a really nice one. I guess, and it was a breakthrough because people had assumed the opposite of fragile was robust, right? That was kind of the dichotomy that people had assumed prior to the book being written, at least in the public consciousness. Taleb says, actually, no, there is that third element, as you rightly point out. I guess, tell us why it matters. Why was the book a big deal? Why is being anti-fragile a big deal?
Yeah, well, as Taleb puts it, it's far easier to work out if something is fragile than to predict whether something that is fragile may, or whether something that occurs will harm something, or predict whether something will actually happen. And so most of the time what happens is people will fail to predict what Taleb calls a black swan event. So something like the global financial crisis or more recently COVID. But what you won't be able to predict that event occurring, but what you can do is figure out what the impact of that event might be. So if you think about the global financial crisis, you can't predict that. No one can predict that very easily. But you can predict what the impact or how fragile the market or how fragile a system might be to, say, a percentage of people defaulting on their mortgages. And so the fragile will be harmed immensely by these events, but the anti-fragile, who kind of have prepared themselves for the consequences but not tried to predict the event, they'll be unharmed and can potentially even benefit from those events. Another example, you don't really need to be able to predict lithium prices or gold prices or other commodity prices to see the impact that a change in those prices might have on the underlying mining companies. These companies, they depend on those prices. And if there was a sharp sustained fall, you can kind of tell yourself, well, and we've seen it in the past. We've seen these sharp sustained falls in commodity prices in the past. You can sort of say to yourself, there will be a sharp reduction in profits. There'll likely be bankruptcies, and those businesses are therefore fragile against those things.
Nice, I like it. Mate, let's take that then to the investment space, because again, I suspect most people are saying, well, I want to be fragile, I want to be robust, at least before this book was done. How can we take the concept of anti-fragility, I think that's a word, how can we take that into our investing lives? What can we learn from the book when it comes to building our portfolios or selecting the way we think about managing those portfolios, particularly in times of stress?
Yeah, so as Taleb wrote about this, I really liked his advice on this one. If you can make more when you're right than you're hurt when you're wrong, then you'll benefit in the long run from the volatility. I think it's therefore really important that investors, rather than thinking, well, how can I, minimize my downside? It's important to really be looking for potential upside in your investments rather than limited downside. But beyond this, Taleb's shared four, I guess, rules for anti-fragility when stock picking. So the first one was looking for optionality. So that's really just about favoring a company that has not just one way to win, but multiple ways that it can win. So acquisitions, organically, multiple products, not just reliant on one offering. It needs to have many different ways that this company can win. Taleb prefers companies that have an open-ended payoff, not a closed payoff. So it's all about potential growth rather than something like a perceived discount to value when all else is equal. The third one is to not invest in a business plan, but rather in the people. Look for someone look for a capable management team. Look for a capable management team, invest in quality management. And then the fourth one is what he calls a barbelled strategy. And basically this means you can have two extremes in your portfolio. So have speculative and safe. Yeah.
Very cool. There are 4 investing rules we can choose to live by. A fascinating book, mate. Thank you for chatting about Antifragile. I said one of the best big. I assume most people have read it by now. If you haven't, grab a copy, have a look. I don't necessarily agree with all of it. You don't have to agree with all of it. But the ideas behind it are really, really useful. And that's some of the stuff, the takeaways that Darius has shared with us. I think hopefully you can apply to your own investment. I'm certainly thinking about my portfolio as I do, as Darius is talking about it. I hope you are too. Hey, thanks for watching, Darius. Thanks for sharing your expertise, by the way. Thanks for watching. Thanks for being part of the Motley Fool journey. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell. So next week, when we have more great stuff from the team, Stocks in Focus, Stock of the Month, what I've been reading, Motley Fool TV, we do some YouTube live Q&As, all of that great stuff on the channel. You will miss it unless you subscribe. So please do it, hit the notification bell. Mate, thanks again for sharing your expertise. Thanks for watching. Until we chat again, Fool on.